Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream, for your time and attention. Today is 26th of July. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, which is also Vladikavkaz time. Both cities are in one time zone, and well, this is a news summary program from Russia. And I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and I hope you will find this episode informative and useful. As always, after news segment, we will have a community chat, short community chat, like 15, 20, 30 minutes. Although I will remind you, dear friends, that tomorrow, if there will be no technical issues, I will have a Sunday fundraising stream, also traditional at this point, and it's going to be big community chat as it is always on Sundays. So I hope you and many other members of our community will join tomorrow's big stream. And also, dear friends, before I start with our news segment, let me ask you, if I may, to leave some commentary in the comment section, not just in the chat during the stream itself, but in the comment section too after stream will end. And please share your take on main topics, or any topic actually, that you find interesting. It might help, and most likely will help, to fight their extremely aggressive algorithm, especially on YouTube. So if you can, please keep that in mind, that these likes, by the way, on videos and comments actually help. And also I will just highlight that this independent media project from Russia exists only as long as I have your support, community support. And if you like my work, if you want to see potential further development of this project, please consider to support my work. All the links are on this video in description box, and there will be in the pinned comment after stream ends. That's being said, let's start a news segment now. And well, as I said, a lot to unpack, dear friends, a lot of news. And traditionally, I will start with reports from Russian media, which is based on Defense Ministry's latest update about work of air defense systems last night, early hours of this morning. And for example, we have this report from RIA Novosti that air defense systems on duty intercepted 54 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. Specifics are that 24 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region. This is overnight, by the way. 12 drones over Rostov region, 6 drones over Crimea, 4 drones over waters of the Azov Sea, 3 over the Black Sea, 2 each over the Admiral and Tula region, and 1 drone over the Belgorod region. Also, dear friends, just a few minutes before I launched this stream, Mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, reported that this morning 2 drones were intercepted in the Moscow region, drones that were heading towards capital. And also we have this report that unfortunately, tragically, 2 people died in Rostov region as a result of Ukrainian NATO drone strikes to civilians. Let me give you some details on that. As a result of a drone attack near the Zimovniki Remontная Elista highway in Rostov region, 2 people were killed. Acting governor Yuri Slusar reported, and allegedly drone struck on a car, by the way, on a civilian car. That's reports that I see on some other sources. Yet another relatively large-scale attempt of Kiev regime and NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. Yet another terrorist attack on Russia that caused the death of civilians. We also have reports, dear friends, that during the nighttime, Russian armed forces launched a long-range precise strike on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime in a number of directions. For example, explosions were heard in the Kharkov region. Also, explosions were heard in Dnipropetrovsk region. Not much details are available at this point. During the day, Russian Defense Ministry probably will give a public update on this night long-range strikes. And of course, I will share additional information on my Telegram and Twitter X page in next updates, or maybe in second update today. Yesterday, I also had second update that I published on my Patreon page and the Boosty pages. Maybe I will do the same today also. When it comes to zone of special military operation, of course, public's attention, who pays any attention at all to developments on the line of contact, is focused now on developments in the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction, because according to reports from numerous sources, Russian DRGs and some regular troops did manage to enter Pokrovsk in several directions. And allegedly, by the way, Russian troops actually are in control of several significant parts of central Pokrovsk, central areas of the Pokrovsk city itself. Somewhat surprising attack for many, I guess, because assumption was that battle for Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration will take many months, but latest developments are indicating that maybe, just maybe, it will be, situation will develop in exactly opposite direction, and Russian troops will establish control over these cities in relatively short time, and both Pokrovsk and Mirnograd will be liberated maybe even before end of this summer. Clearly, possibility. Also, dear friends, let me show you on the map. Also, dear friends, reports are coming in that Russian troops establish full control over the Zverevo settlement on the southwestern flank of Pokrovsk. Russian troops are conducting operations in the central part of Pokrovsk also, and Russian troops, after liberating Novoekonomichne settlement, move towards Mirnograd, and number of sources are reporting about presence of Russian forward units, or DRGs, we might say, inside the Mirnograd too. So very significant progress, by the way, very significant progress of the Russian armed forces in this direction. Also, reports are coming in that the Russian armed forces establish full control over the Alexandra Kaliningrad settlement and continue their offensive operations. This settlement is located in between Pokrovsk-Mirnograd and Konstantinovka settlement on the southern flank of Konstantinovka. Significant progress of the Russian troops. Also, according to number of reports, Russian troops improved their position significantly in this massive Serebryanka forestry, and significant parts of this forestry has been cleared from enemy formations. Of course, battle in forestry areas are, I guess, I'm not military expert, but I guess are extremely difficult. But nevertheless, Russian troops are moving forward, and no one at this point, no one should be surprised if we will see collapse of Kiev regime's defense lines, Kiev regime's troops, not just in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd area, but also in Seversk direction, for example, which will mean collapse of Kiev regime's defensive lines in Serebryanka forestry too. And maybe in a couple of weeks' time, entire this massive forest will be cleared from enemy forces. Allegedly, dear friends, Russian troops further improved their position in Kupiansk direction, and a number of sources are reporting that Russian troops actually are conducting military operations inside the Kupiansk city itself. Unfortunately, internet is too slow, and as you can see, map is not really reacting in a way I would like. Little late reaction, but this is Kupiansk city that you see on your screen right now, and battles are taking place inside the city. Yet again, allegedly, according to number of very serious sources. So significant progress of the Russian militaries in many directions, in DPR, in Kharkov region, and also we should pay attention to developments in Zaporozhye sector, because according to number of sources, Russian troops achieved a breakthrough in direction of Stepnogorsk settlement, and now Russian troops are encircling from the southern, northern eastern side Plavny settlement, and the Russian troops are basically on outskirts of Stepnogorsk itself. So also significant progress. I remind you, dear friends, that a couple of weeks ago there was rumors. Almost all military experts were speculating about directions of the Russian offensive, which way Russian troops might actually focus their attention. And clearly we are seeing that the Russian troops are increasing their activity in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction, in Konstantinovka direction, in the Kharkov region, and in the Zaporozhye region too, which is exactly what I was saying, that Russian troops are actually in a position to launch local scale or sectoral scale offensive operations on any of the directions on the line of contact, or maybe even simultaneously in all directions, right? And something like that is exactly the happening on a battlefield, isn't it? And if we keep in mind basically collapse of Kiev regime defense lines in Pokrovsk Mirnograd direction, or beginning of their collapse, then who knows, dear friends, in next week or two we might actually see very dramatic developments on the battlefield, not in favor of NATO and NATO terrorist proxy regime in Kiev. My prediction. Let's see how will situation develop. Also, let me give you this report, dear friends, that military expert Andrei Marochko is reporting that Russian forces clear Boykovo settlement in the DPR, and they're continuing their offensive operations in vicinity of Boykovo settlement, another area where Russian troops are advancing. But obviously nowadays big battlefields are taking place. Big battles are taking place, not just on the battlefield itself, but not just in the military field, but also in a political field in Kiev-controlled territory, let's say. And Zelensky is on defensive, right? Zelensky is under heavy pressure and assault, actually, from all sides, from within and also from the west. And for example, we have yet another kind of hit piece from Western media outlet, Financial Times this time, that Zelensky's MPs are scared of what to repel NABU law. NABU is, of course, that agency, so-called agency that should fight corruption. But in reality, these institutions, by the way, NABU and SAPO, are creations of Western elites, Western ruling class, Western secret services, and they play role of lash over their Kiev regime, right? And I guess decision was already made by Western elites to remove Zelensky from office and to basically replace him with Zaluzhny, who is serving now as a UK ambassador of Ukraine in UK. And that's why these processes that started a couple of days ago in Kiev-controlled territory are not stopping this assault on Zelensky. But anyways, let's go through details of this particular news, why Zelensky's MPs are afraid. So dozens of MPs from the Vladimir Zelensky Servant of the People Party are afraid to vote on a draft law on the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, NABU, and their specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office, SAPO, writes the Financial Times. According to this media outlet, concerns are related to the risk of inspections by these agencies, since MPs previously supported their against these organizations, right? Against these agencies. During their voting on a bill that Zelensky and his associates introduced to establish direct control over the NABU and the SAPO. And I guess, these MPs are not mistaken. Probably, they will be targeted. They will be targeted also by these agencies, and most importantly, by Western ruling class, because you guessed where these corrupt elements in Ukrainian so-called elites have majority of their stolen assets. It's in the West, right? It is in the West, and one should understand why uh, almost everybody now in Kiev controlled territory is lives in fear that they're gonna be targeted directly, right? Uh, so the publication reported that about 70 deputies or 70 MPs of the ruling party expressed alarm about their new bill. Fear of retribution has appeared, the article said. Some elected representatives are even considering the possibility of resigning their mandates in order to avoid voting on initiatives related to anti-corruption agencies. The publication clarifies that the Speaker of Parliament, Ruslan Stefanchuk, has scheduled the consideration of the bill for July 31st, but due to concerns among our deputies, the meeting may be postponed or uh, for some times. According to one of the deputies, despite the atmosphere of fear, the chances of the new law being adopted are quite high, since 226 votes are enough for it. And also, one should keep in mind, dear friends, that even though Zelensky kind of backtracked on his initial assault on Nabu and Sapo, this new bill allegedly is not really granting these agencies true independence. What is happening is that, Zelensky personally will be in charge, right? Not the general prosecutor's office, as it is by recently adopted the law, but Zelensky or presidential institution, right? And I don't think this can be seen as a compromise by those people that actually orchestrated these demonstrations in Kiev, Lvov, Dnipropetrovsk, and other cities on Kiev-controlled territory, right? And that's why reports are coming in that protests against the law on Nabu and SAP are taking place still in many Ukrainian cities. And RIA Novosti is also reporting on that. Let's go through some details here. So protests were held in Ukraine over the law that abolishes the independence of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, NABU, and their Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAP. Their publication, Strana UA, reported there. So RIA Novosti is using source Ukrainian propaganda outlet, Strana UA, as a source for this news. And this is also interesting because it's not just NGOs, by the way, Western finance NGOs that are, and their assets that are protesting now and creating new Maidan, but it's Western financed media too. So this is not a random development, for sure, right? So protests against law restricting the right of Nabu and SAP have once again gathered in Kiev and Dnipropetrovsk. At the same time, in Dnipropetrovsk, the slogans of the protests concern not only the law, but also their army and their friends. Allegedly, according to some sources, these protesters, these NGOs, already are calling for militaries to join them, which is definitely going to be next step in this escalation, isn't it? If Zelensky will not step down, that's what is going to happen, isn't it? These protests now are focused on these laws that Zelensky adopted against Nabu and SAP, but it's only a matter of days, maybe a week or two max, and these very protesters will begin demanding resignation of Zelensky and his criminal associates, right? And if Zelensky will refuse, and probably he will refuse, then, well, militaries will take action, right? Because I remind you, dear friends, that according to the latest report of U.S. journalist Seymour Hersh on the matter of fate of Zelensky, Hersh was writing based on his sources, and he's a well-informed journalist, by the way, isn't it? Well-informed and award-winning journalist, well-respected journalist worldwide from U.S., right? And he was saying that, well, his sources are not excluding possibility of military action if Zelensky will not step down. And that's why already we allegedly, yet again, I'm not there, isn't it? But based on information from open sources, these protesters, New Maidan leaders are already calling militaries to join them, which is clearly, I mean, I see this as a preparations for this possible second phase of this operation on removal of Zelensky from the office. So Zelensky might have like a couple of weeks left. Either he is resigning or he will be removed from the office. That's the only two scenarios that seems plausible at this point, right? Also, dear friends, Telegraph continues to come up with hit pieces on Zelensky, and Telegraph, British media outlet, is one of the most aggressive ones in regards to Zelensky. And this is quite understandable because, after all, nowadays London is leading the charge when it comes to this proxy war against Russia. London is doing this openly, right? And London basically is in charge of Ukraine itself, right? And I remind you that Zaluzhny, former head of general staff of Kiev regime, is a so-called ambassador of Ukraine in London, and he is a British asset for since forever, and everybody knows about it, right? And I guess London managed to persuade Washington to replace Zelensky with Zaluzhny. So therefore, British media is especially aggressive, with British so-called media, by the way, which is obviously controlled by intelligence services there, right? They're especially aggressive towards Zelensky nowadays. So Telegraph continues attacks on Zelensky, and we have this report, for example, that Vladimir Zelensky has undermined the U.S. trust and jeopardized the new supplies with the law on the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. NABU, Telegraph newspaper writes, citing senior congressional aides. Trump administration senior officials warned Zelensky not to strip autonomy from two key anti-corruption agencies, but he ignored them. Ukrainians were made to understand that this was not a good idea. This was done in their hope that Zelensky would veto it. The source said, according to congressional aides, the head of Kiev regime has undermined Washington's trust, which could affect aid to Ukraine. And, well, when it comes to military supplies to Ukraine, I don't think any of these developments on Kiev-controlled territory will affect military or weapon supplies. But what this will affect is fate of Zelensky himself. Right? Obviously, neither London, neither Washington gonna say it openly that, well, they're gonna take down Zelensky and replacing him with Zaluzhny, but that's what is happening. That's what is happening, isn't it? So, yet again, Zelensky might have a week or two to escape, or he's going down. He is going down big time. Let's see, by the way. Let's see. And meanwhile, some interesting report is circulating on internet that Ukraine's Anti-Corruption Bureau came under pressure, allegedly, from Zelensky and his criminal associates after NABU tapped the phone of a businessman Timur Mindich. And this was reported by Ukrainian MP Alexei Goncharenko. Mindich, by the way, is a co-owner of the Quartal 95, which is a company that was organizing these comedic shows of Quartal 95, in which Zelensky was a leading actor, leading comedian, writer. Many of you probably have seen antiques of Zelensky while participating in Quartal 95 comedy shows. And also, by the way, Mindich is widely known as Zelensky's wallet. The two are close friends and longtime business partners. Goncharenko, by the way, this so-called MP in Ukraine, who is also mass murderer, by the way, and criminal and should be punished, but due to internal confrontation now, obviously this confrontation, what it does is that more and more information is becoming available for the public, right? That was hidden before. So this Goncharenko, while attacking Zelensky, also claims that Mindich's apartment served as Zelensky's shadow office. where Zelensky, Mindic, and their other criminals that are leading Kiev regime right now were discussing arms contracts, energy sector bribes, corporate raiding schemes, and which major businessmen to be targeted with their sanctions next. So, which businessman to be terrorized and to be, to be forced to pay some significant sums, right? So it is interesting, isn't it? And now, right now on your screen, you can see this Zelensky and that businessman Mindic. I never heard this surname before, by the way. I never really interested in internal some deals in Kiev controlled territory. I have no respect for those people, and why would I pay any too much attention to it, right? But I do pay attention to some major topics, and so if this surname Mindic does not say as much to me, then I guess many or majority members of our community also hearing about it the first time. But well, it is interesting news, isn't it? Some nuances coming out now as a result of this internal fight on Kiev control territory that was not really available for public previously. Let's see how will situation develop, but Zelensky is, of course, on a damage control mode now. As I already mentioned in previous updates, he come up with a new law which will sort of guarantee NABU and SAP from control of Prosecutor General's office. But yet again, allegedly, this new law of Zelensky, if adopted, will give him personally the rights to be in charge of this organization. So this is only on the surface one might see as a retreat of Zelensky. In reality, he still continues to fight for power there. But nevertheless, he is in a damage control mode. And yesterday, according to media reports, by the way, yesterday he went to brag about possible contracts with US that will bring Ukraine from 10 to 30 billion dollars. And let me give you some details, by the way, on that. This is, such a crap stuff to say on part of Zelensky, but he's desperate. He is desperate now, and he needs some victories. He needs some victories, and he is basically coming up with a total nonsense, which is that US is ready to buy Ukrainian drones for tens of billions of dollars, by the way. So the US reportedly agreed to buy combat drones from Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky announced on Thursday, stating that their deal could be worth up to $30 billion. Speaking at the press conference in Kiev, Zelensky said that he had reached an understanding with US President Donald Trump and had instructed his ministers to prepare an agreement. With Trump, we agreed that the US will buy drones from us, he told reporters, adding that the contract worth 10 to 30 billion is now being drafted, which is a different, total freaking nonsense, isn't it? It's US companies that are providing Kiev regime with the drones. It's not other way around. It's a US companies, it's a European NATO member states companies or military industrial complex, let's say, that are shipping thousands and thousands of drones to the regime. Inside the Kiev control territory, there are assembly lines of some domestically engineered drones and assembly lines of the Western drones that are shipped in parts, right? But come on, and Kiev regime is in no position to actually export domestically built drones in such volumes that the contract would reach 10 to 30 billion dollars. This is I don't know who's gonna buy this crap from Zelensky, but he is desperate. He is desperate, by the way, and he's pushing all sorts of nonsense now, isn't it? Why on earth US will need drones from Ukraine, man? When US is one of the leading countries when it comes to drone technologies, if not the leading country. At least that was the case before special military operation. Of course, nowadays Russia is advancing in drone technologies, very rapidly. And when it comes to drone warfare, I don't think any country in this world has as much experience as Russian militaries have, right? But nevertheless, I think interesting news, isn't it? This one that demonstrates how desperate Zelensky is in his attempt to gain some, to maintain power and to gain some public support as much as he can. And he is just coming up with some total nonsensical statements. Yes, US gonna pay 30 billion. Why not 50 billion? Why not trillion straight away, man? Nevertheless, fate of this criminal is sealed, by the way, right? There is two scenarios, as I already said. Either he's running away from this former Soviet republic to Israel, because I don't think either globalists in Europe or US political class wants him to see on their territories. So therefore, I think Israel is his final destination. If he is clever enough to run away now, while he can. Otherwise, if London and Washington will go ahead with their military option, with the coup d'etat, then it is not the fact that Zelensky will survive. They might actually take him out, right? Because he is just too noisy, right? He makes too much noise. And he might begin saying some stuff that Washington and London might don't want to be heard by public. Anyways, let's continue. And we have this report from Kommersant newspaper that Trump allows secondary tariffs to be introduced against Russia before ultimatums. So interesting. I mean, on topic of this Trump's ultimatum and secondary tariffs or secondary sanctions, even Western media or so-called media is kind of confused, because big names, by the way, in the Western propaganda are publishing articles that are contradicting each other, while all of them have probably same sources and all of them being controlled by same force, right? But nevertheless, let's go through some details here. US President Donald Trump has not ruled out introducing secondary tariffs on Russia's trading partners. The head of state said this before leaving for Scotland, as quoted by the Washington Post. Donald Trump has admitted that their introduction of tariffs could occur earlier than their established 50-day deadline. And I remind you, dear friends, that on July 14, Donald Trump said he would impose 100% secondary tariffs on countries buying Russian goods if Moscow did not reach a peace agreement with Kiev within 50 days. U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said that this deadline was not strictly fixed and would be assessed at the negotiations progressed. As the negotiations progressed. So according to Washington Post, Trump might introduce the secondary sanctions or secondary tariffs on Russian allies, Russian trade partners, even before this 50-day ultimatum will expire. And same time, by the way, we have a report from Reuters, which said that Trump is unlikely to enforce tariff threat on Russian oil whatsoever, by the way. Not now, not after 50 days, not after 100 days. And I see this more logical, because this 100% tariffs on Russian trade partners, by the way, will hurt U.S. economy, U.S. consumer market tremendously. It will hurt world economy, but especially U.S. economy. It's counterproductive, right? Experts, more and more experts, by the way, worldwide, are saying that this, Washington is going too far with this trade war and tariff wars, and they're actually gonna hurt U.S. citizens, U.S. consumers, big time, if they did not stop now and go ahead with their now 100% tariffs on Russian trade partners, and potentially even 500% tariffs, as it is put in that bill that Blumenthal, U.S. senators, extreme Russophobe and Russia hater senators Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham are initiating. So Reuters is reporting that Trump is likely to slap 100% tariffs on Russian oil buyers. Analysts dismiss threat as a blunt, risky, and mostly political noise. And I think that's exactly what it is, man. It's just a bluff. It's just a bluff. U.S. is in no position to actually threaten Russia. Globalists or globalist-controlled regimes in the collective West, let's say this way, are not in a position to threaten Russia. They lost this proxy war against Russia. They lost their trade war against Russia. They lost sanction war against Russia. They lost in every possible direction. And the sooner they will realize this and acknowledge this, the better for everybody, I will say. But nevertheless, it is interesting, isn't it, that Western propaganda outlets themselves are confused now. They have no freaking idea what the hell is going on, right? And that's why I guess they are coming up with these publications that are clearly contradicting each other, isn't it? Meanwhile, Erdogan wants to discuss Istanbul meeting with Putin and Trump. According to TASS news agency, so Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced plans to speak by phone with the Russian and American counterparts Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump about the possibility of meeting of the leaders on Ukraine in Istanbul. We have quote here: "We might hold talks with Putin and Trump this week to discuss the possibility of holding a meeting of the leaders in Istanbul. We will strive for this," he told reporters, commenting on the results of their third round of the direct talks between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul on July 23rd. According to Erdogan, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, who is, by the way, considered to be potential replacement of Erdogan, is these two are very close allies. So this Hakan Fidan, Foreign Minister of Turkey, on his instructions, Erdogan, participated in the talks that took place in the Kiragan Palace. The meeting in Kiragan was conducted on my behalf by my foreign minister, the Turkish president said, adding that he himself received the Ukrainian delegation in Ankara before it flew to Istanbul for talks. And of course, he's talking about this direct talks between Russian delegation and the representatives of the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky on July 23rd that took place in Istanbul. I'm against, by the way, too much attention to be given or to this terrorist regime in Kiev. But yet again, only because as a result of this Istanbul talks, POWs were released and some achievements, were reached in humanitarian area. Only because of this, I'm, not as critical of these talks as I would be otherwise, because I think neither Zelensky, neither anybody from this terrorist regime in former Soviet Republic Ukraine deserves any attention whatsoever or any respect, right? They are criminals, mass murderers, terrorists, Nazis, and should be treated as such. My personal opinion, by the way. Nevertheless, Trump was asked, by the way, about possible meeting with the Russian president and also with Zelensky. Erdogan is also pushing this narrative, isn't it? And Trump was asked about it also. And let me give you a video of his comment, dear friends. So
Zelensky and Putin to sit down together, maybe with you.
It's going to happen, but it should have happened 3 months ago. It's going to happen.
So, let's listen once again.
What would it take to force Zelensky and Putin to sit down together, maybe with you?
It's going to happen, but it should have happened 3 months ago. It's going to happen.
Looks like Trump is quite confident, isn't it, that it's gonna happen, this meeting, by the way. I mean, I don't know based on what knowledge Trump is confident that such a meeting will take place, and the Russian president will waste time meeting with either Trump, meeting personally with either Trump or with Zelensky, by the way. But yet again, with Trump, by the way, you just never know. He does say some stuff that makes no sense, right? Quite often, every now and then, and therefore it is difficult to comment on his statements, right? I personally don't believe that either this year or ever Russian president will meet with Zelensky. I don't think this will happen. Putin might have a meeting with Trump if delegations of two countries will, as a result of negotiations, will manage to reach any agreements on a bilateral level. In that case, I can see why it will make sense if Russian president will, find time in his schedule to meet personally with Trump to finalize agreements, possible agreements, right, between the sides. But Zelensky, I mean, who the hell is Zelensky, man? Why should Russian president waste time talking to that creature? I don't know, man. I don't think Putin will waste time for that. I just really don't think so. And he should not, right? Personal opinion, dear friends. Yet again, nevertheless, for whatever reason, there is some kind of fixation, isn't it, on a meeting with Putin in the West and also in Kiev-controlled territory. And I don't know why they are, this focused on meeting with Putin. If there is any actual need to exchange opinions or something, there is a communication lines in place, and either Trump or any other so-called leader in the West can take a phone and call Russian president. If it's worth attention, I guess Russian president will answer, right? And we'll have a chat, exchange of opinions. It happened a couple of times before with Trump. Recently, Russian president spoke here with French President Macron, isn't it? So, I mean, communication might happen and will happen, but this fixation on a personal meeting, face-to-face meeting, why, man? I don't get it. Maybe you understand better, by the way, but I find it strange, right? Nevertheless, by the way, we have some more news to continue. And according to media reports, U.S. President Donald Trump said that the imminent expiration of new strategic arms reduction treaty, New START, so-called, is a problem for the entire world. He added that the U.S. Intends to discuss prospects for further nuclear disarmament with Russia. Same time, unilaterally suspended its participation in the treaty in 2023. Vladimir Putin called their decision forced. It was made against the backdrop of nuclear countries continuing to develop their nuclear weapons. First of all, Western nuclear countries, by the way, US, France, UK. And at the same time, they were insisting on access to Russian nuclear facilities, right? While they were breaking first part of the treaty about nuclear weapons, and they were breaking it because they were working on a new nuclear weapon systems, they were demanding second part of the treaty about access on Russian nuclear facilities. And Moscow said, you know what? No. Either you are complicit to this treaty 100%, or otherwise we are out of it. And that's exactly what happened in 2023. And dear friends, when it comes to nuclear disarmament, we all understand how dangerous nuclear weapons are actually. No need to dive deep into that matter. Of course, nuclear weapons are most dangerous stuff that humanity has created. But nevertheless, I think nuclear weapons are exactly the deterrent, even if this deterrent was damaged somewhat by NATO or Western attacks on Russian nuclear triad with their with hands of their proxy Kiev regime. But nevertheless, still, by the way, nuclear forces, Russian nuclear triad is their main deterrent of their collective West, globalists, and so on. Otherwise, can you imagine what would these Western countries do if Russia did not have nuclear triad? By the way, can you imagine what they will do? So, therefore, me personally, I'm absolutely against any new treaties. By the way, in terms of nuclear disarmament, no, man, Russia needs more nukes, not less. Russia needs more delivery systems, not less. And I think Russian leadership is on the same page on that, because it was yesterday, isn't it, that I reported about statements of Russian president that before end of this decade, Russian Navy, for example, will receive another 6 new nuclear submarines, right? And of course, nuclear fleet, by the way, nuclear submarine fleet, especially Boreya class nuclear submarines, are the backbone of the Russian nuclear triad. So therefore, by the way, first of all, because collective West countries cannot be trusted, leadership of the collective West countries cannot be trusted, and second of all, because nuclear weapons are they're basically only deterrent that stops collective West, at least stop until now, collective West to declare war on Russia or to fight openly against Russia. Therefore, I mean, we should maintain our nuclear forces and extend our nuclear forces as much as possible. If we have now 6,000 nuclear weapons, let's make it 10, by the way, by 2035. Let's make it 15,000 nukes by 2050, by the way. We need more nukes, not less, because there is not even a slight chance that Western societies will ever, at least in foreseeable future, by the way, will manage to reclaim their own countries and to become decision makers in their own destiny. Western countries are forever, it seems to me, are controlled by these criminal clans, globalists, neocons, multinational corporations, and so on, and therefore they cannot be trusted ever, right? And to deter any direct aggression from the NATO, we need more nuclear weapons. That's my take, by the way, on the situation. Share your opinion, dear friends. I know nuclear weapons are tremendously dangerous, by the way, but this is the only way we can deter West from direct aggression. They already are conducting proxy war against Russia, right? And they are involved in many ways in this war. But at least the US army has not been sent yet to fight Russia. At least the British army, whatever is left of it, did not yet be directly sent. I mean, special forces, yes, and they suffered heavy losses. But, I mean, when it comes to armed forces, Air Force, Navy, I mean, at least they are not directly involved on this stage, right, in this war. Same goes for France and Germany and Italy and others, right? But if Russia did not have nuclear weapons, I'm 100% convinced, by the way, 1,000,000% convinced that NATO would attack Russia a long time ago, NATO forces, and would try to destroy Russia. And on this very matter, by the way, we have this report, for example, just to highlight that I'm not exaggerating nothing, dear friends. We have a report from aide of the Russian president, Patrushev, who is saying that NATO wants to violate Russia's integrity by military means, right? So NATO is seeking to violate Russia's territorial integrity by military means. This is confirmed by their alliance's threats against the Kaliningrad region, said Nikolai Patrushev, an aide to the Russian president and the chairman of the Russia's Naval Collegium, in an interview with the РИА Новости, Christopher Donahue, commander of the US Army in Europe and Africa and commander of NATO ground forces, said earlier in July, and I reported about it, by the way, that the alliance had planned to quickly suppress the defense potential of the Russian forces in the Kaliningrad region. Donahue noted that their countries are implementing a plan for a line of deterrence on the eastern flank, which involves strengthening ground capabilities and improving military-industrial cooperation in the alliance. And dear friends, RIA Novosti is using some less provocative phrases from Donahue. I remind you, dear friends, that what he said was that NATO, US, and its allies are ready to obliterate Kaliningrad region. And obliteration of entire region means obliteration of hundreds of thousands, millions of people there, all the people that live there, right? This was the craziest statement that acting US general could make, and this statement was made, right? You see now why I'm saying that the only deterrent we have against these psychopaths, by the way, that are in charge in the Western countries is the nuclear weapons. This is only deterrent. You know, they are dreaming about destroying Russia. They are dreaming about attacking, dividing Russia, killing as many Russians as possible, and they're gaining access to resources. And they are not even hiding it. They are quite bad in hiding their desires, right? That's what is happening. So therefore, 100%, by the way, we need more nukes, more delivery systems, and more strengthening of their nuclear deterrent. 1,000,000%, by the way. And dear friends, before I continue, let me once again notice, if I may, that this media project exists. It's hot, dear friends. This media project only exists as long as I have your support. And so if you like my work, if you like what you hear, what you see, if you want to see further development of this project, and I do have some plans, by the way, in regards to future of the project, it depends on opportunities that I will have to, go ahead with these ideas. So, if you like my work, if you want to support, you can do it through several means. You can donate to the project through PayPal platform or Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, where I have a lot of extra content on regular basis. On Patreon, I have 300 plus videos, by the way, that are exclusive for Patreon, for example. Also, you can use a crypto for donation, for support. And during the live streams, dear friends, you can use a super chat feature on Rumble and donate through this feature, and also become a premium subscriber, by the way, on Rumble, which is also great support, of course. All the links are under this video in description box, and it will be in the pinned comment, dear friends, after this streaming will end. And once again, let me ask you, dear friends, to leave some commentary about any topic you find interesting in the comment section after this stream will end. I'm happy that community is very active in the chat, and I will be even more happier if you will manage to leave at least one comment in a comment section after stream, dear friends. Especially if you are watching this video after live stream ends, by the way, later on in a day or tomorrow, then you don't really see chat, right? You just see a comment section. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends, now with more news. And of course, dear friends, many thanks to everybody who already helped and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. I really hope I'm doing some good job, by the way. Thank you all. And let's continue with more news. And for example, dear friends, I want to focus your attention to this report that I see on one of the big Russian Telegram channels, that allegedly decision is about to made about only aircraft carrier of the Russian Federation, Admiral Kuznetsov, and this decision might be that this aircraft carrier will go in retirement, will be decommissioned. For example, head of VTB, second biggest Russian lender, Kostin, stated that this aircraft carrier most likely will be decommissioned. At this point, modernization of the aircraft carrier allegedly will cost 350 billion rubles, up to 20 billion. I believe already were spent on some renovation works. But many experts seems like are on the page that it's not worth this much investment. Would be better if this aircraft carrier will be decommissioned, and I think that's exactly what is going to happen. And soon, Russia will no longer have a aircraft carrier. This will be official, right? Because there are many indicators that Admiral Kuznetsov will be decommissioned, and I think personally that this decision will be a correct decision. This aircraft carrier should be decommissioned like decade ago or even 2 decades ago. Yet again, personal opinion. I'm no military expert, but I think it will make more sense for Russia to focus when it comes to carrier forces to be more focused on larger amphibious warships, so-called helicopter carriers. And right now, by the way, at least 2 large amphibious warships or helicopter carriers are in stage of being built, by the way, right? You see on your screen right now project that these helicopter carriers would look like. Allegedly, yet again, I have not seen personally in a dock these vessels that are in the process of being built, and I think this is the right direction to go, because aircraft carrier Admiral Kuznetsov was has its limits, right? While I think big amphibious warships, big landing vessels, or the helicopter carriers can provide more capabilities to Russian Navy. 2 is in process to be built, and I think before end of this decade, both vessels will actually join Russian Navy, and then more might actually be built. And one might say, well, aircraft carriers are good because they can deploy air force, fighter jets, fighter bombers to any place in this world. You know what? Yes, it is true, but bigger landing vessels or helicopter carriers, so-called, also can deploy fighter jets or fighter bombers to the battlefield if you have a shorter takeoff or vertical takeoff and short or vertical landing planes. And by the way, Russia definitely has capabilities to build such planes, right? For example, I remind you, dear friends, about Project Yak 141 you see on your screen right now, plane. Work on this plane began in late 70s, I believe, and in mid 80s, this plane actually conducted its first flight, mid 80s of last century, of course. And this plane, by the way, by many are considered to be a parent even of a modern US F-35 fighter jet, but much more advanced and capable for its time, right? And this plane that you see on your screen, by the way, is a supersonic fighter jet capable of conducting ground attack operations. It's a vertical takeoff plane, vertical or short takeoff plane, and vertical and short landing plane, right? And the nozzle on this plane was operating exactly in the way that you see on F-35s, by the way, when nozzle is turning from a horizontal position to a vertical position, right? And also there is additional nozzles on sides, and this power from engines, are so powerful that they're allowing plane to lift. So, by the way, what I'm saying is that once Russian Navy will receive these large amphibious vessels, they might be equipped not just with helicopters, attack helicopters, transport helicopters, recognition helicopters, anti-submarine warfare helicopters, but also with their new vertical takeoff and landing fighter jets that will take all the best from Yak 141 and will be something new, of course. Will be something new with all the best that Yak 141 was representing. It might call, I don't know, Yak 150 or Yak 200, but Russia definitely is in a position to build this type of planes, right? Much more capable than US F-35s are or ever will be. So therefore, I think if Russia will decommission aircraft carrier, that will be end of entire era. Obviously, it's a legendary piece of engineering of Soviet era, isn't it? But nevertheless, these modern amphibious warships, larger amphibious warships, will definitely will be good alternatives, right? And potentially much more capable alternatives and much more useful alternatives for the Russian Federation and Russian Navy, especially if they will be equipped with their new Russian vertical or short takeoff and vertical or short landing fighter jets and fighter bombers. So I think interesting topic here. I wanted to share this information, by the way, because many of you, of course, are familiar with Admiral Kuznetsov, this aircraft carrier that is probably will be decommissioned soon officially. Let's continue with some more news. And TASS News Agency is reporting that British Prime Minister sees a potential recognition of Palestinian state as a part of a wider plan. Keir Starmer added that the recognition of the state of Palestine must be part of wider plan, which ultimately results in a two-state solution and lasting security for the Palestinians and the Israelis. And I guess pressure on this globalist puppet regime in UK. And I remind you, dear friends, that main driving force behind the globalists are British aristocracy and British royal family. But I guess public pressure is so high on official London that Starmer was basically forced to come up with such a statement that London is considering that recognition of the state of Palestine, should happen and also must be part of a wider plan. This is a kind of same time. London is leaving the gap window for itself, right? It should be part of some wider plan. What wider plan? What are you talking about? Either you are recognizing and fully supporting Palestinian people and their statehood, or you don't. That's it, right? But pressure, by the way, is increasing, obviously. And by the way, it is a shame and will go down in history as a most shameless, or one of the most shameless times of history of the Western countries, when they were complicit in the genocide of the Palestinian people. And they are. UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, US, Canada, entire collective West, by the way, is complicit in a genocide. That's how it is, of Palestinian people that is committed with the Western weapons by Israel, right? And one might say, what leadership of Ireland, leadership of Spain, leadership of this and that country come up with the critical statements. Oh, really? And what? And what? And what? Did they stop sending weapons? Did they stop participating in a genocide? Did not, right? They did not. So public, by the way, I guess ordinary people in the collective West countries are, more intensively are waking up to this tragic reality, right? That their countries are complicit in a genocide, and they are ashamed of their own countries, and they're maybe little by little, step by step, but putting more pressure on their governments. And that's why French president yesterday or day before said that France will recognize the Palestine, statehood of Palestine, in September during the General Assembly of the UN. And now British Prime Minister is also saying that, well, he also talking about recognition of the Palestinian state. We have also this report that UK, France, Germany, leaders of these countries are allegedly on the same page, that time has come to end the war in Gaza. I mean, really? Is 5 months ago was no time to end the genocide that Israel is committing? Is there a year ago was not time to end that genocide? How despicable these elements are, by the way, can you imagine? How despicable these so-called leaders or the elites of the West are. It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. But, well, reports are that these so-called leaders of France, UK, and Germany are calling for immediate ceasefire, unconditional release of all hostages, disarmament of Hamas. Why they are not calling for demilitarization of Israel, denuclearization of Israel? Same time. Why they are not calling for war criminals to be punished, including Netanyahu and entire his cabinet, by the way, everybody in his cabinet, and the entire leadership of Mossad and Shin Bet, or whatever their freaking name is, of that terrorist organization, and also IDF. Why not a single word about that? This scum of humanity, by the way. That's what elites of the so-called West are. Period. Trump, meanwhile, is in Scotland, and I guess he will walk all over their Keir Starmer once they will meet, and they should, or they allegedly, plan to meet, and Trump would not be happy, I guess, because of their, even the mentioning by Keir Starmer of recognition of Palestine. Because Trump went crazy, by the way, when he was asked about Macron's statement that France will recognize independence of Palestine, a statehood of Palestine, and Trump, humiliated Macron in a way that very few excuse me, in a way that very few politicians have done, if any, in the past. Let me give you a video, by the way, on that.
Counterproductive to France, for France to say that they would recognize the Palestinian state. Macron said that yesterday.
Look, he's a different kind of a guy. He's okay. He's a team player, pretty much. But here's the good news: what he says doesn't matter. It's not going to change it.
So how good that?
Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy. I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
You see, he is a good guy, but his statements doesn't carry weight. He's, I don't know, man. If this is not a humiliation of entire France, by the way, because after all, Macron is representing state, right, and people of the Republic. And when Trump is talking this way to French president, if I was a French citizen, by the way, I would be insulted, and I would demand from government strong reaction, because this is not the way allies should treat each other, or leadership of each other. Am I correct, Bob? And at least formally, at least formally, US and France, last time I checked, were allies, political military allies, right? Members of the NATO, and that's the way that Trump is talking about his allies, man. It's a crazy, isn't it? It's a crazy. Let's see if Macron will react anyhow on this situation. I doubt he will, but let's see. Let's see. Trump definitely insulted the Fifth Republic. I mean, that's for sure. And dear friends, let's continue with a few more news. Very same Trump went to basically green light genocide, fed the green light genocide of Palestinian people by Israel. Of course, he used different words. He was different words. He said Israel has to get rid of Hamas, but what that means in practice is, Israel should go ahead and continue killing of Palestinians, because that's what Israel does, right? Unfortunately, already hundreds of thousands of people being killed by Israel, and no one knows when this crime against humanity will end. And yet again, let me give you a video on Trump's statement, by the way.
From Gaza in negotiations?
Yeah, Gaza, they pulled out of Gaza. They pulled out in terms of negotiating. It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad.
Are you done with
And it got to be to a point where you're gonna have to finish the job. They really they asked for things. Don't forget, we got a lot of hostages out. So now we're down to the final hostages, and they know what happens after you get the final hostages. And basically, because of that, they really didn't want to make a deal. I saw that. So they pulled out, and they're going to have to fight, and they're going to have to clean it up. You're going to have to get rid of it.
So you see, he's basically greenlighting. On one hand, he's saying that, well, Hamas knows what will happen once all hostages are released, and I guess Hamas knows. Yes, and everybody knows what will happen. Israel will go ahead with their full-scale ethnic cleansing, right? Only thing that's stopping these Israeli fascists, by the way, to immediately force out all the Palestinians is hostages, right? Netanyahu already has enough problems inside the Israel, right? For different reasons, but nevertheless. And topic of hostages is relevant inside the Israeli society. And Trump is saying himself, basically directly, that Hamas knows what will happen once the hostages are released, and they are backing out of negotiations. This is direct threat. And same time, he's saying that, well, fight gonna continue and Israel gonna get rid of Hamas. Hamas is it's not fighters, basically. Hamas is an idea. At this point, Hamas is an idea of fight for survival of the Palestinians in Gaza, right? All the leadership, basically, of Hamas was exterminated by Israel, right? But the organization is still active and continues to operate, because you cannot kill idea. You might kill leadership of this or that organization, but idea, when it has a general support of public, barely ever is getting killed, right? So Trump is greenlighting, by the way. Trump is greenlighting ethnic cleansing and genocide, further ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Palestinian people by this fascist state that Israel is. And this is tragic. This is tragic. And I'm afraid soon we're going to see further escalation in Gaza by Israeli forces. They will actually begin forcing either killing everyone they see, and they are almost there already, and they will try to force rest out into Egypt, and then anywhere. They just don't care where these people go, right? They just simply don't care. And once Israel will conduct ethnic cleansing in a Gaza Strip, we all know that they're gonna do the same in West Bank. And when they will do it in West Bank, if world community is still still a joke as it is right now, and they're unable to stop this fascist Israel, then Netanyahu's regime will go ahead and do the same in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon. And this process will continue and continue and continue, because these fanatics, these genocidal maniacs that are in charge of Israel, they are dreaming about some greater Israel, right? This sickening idea of greater Israel, which means that they're gonna, if they are allowed to, they're gonna genocide people all around them, by the way. And Trump, I mean, you can hear yourself, by the way. Trump is greenlighting this crime against humanity. U.S. is greenlighting this crime against humanity. And on the topic of Palestine and Palestinian state, once again, we have a statement from Moscow. So the only way to resolve the Middle East conflict is through the certain creation of the Palestinian state alongside the Israel. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Friday. His statement followed the French President Emmanuel Macron's announcement that France will formally recognize Palestine at the UN General Assembly in September. Russia has always adhered to a two-state solution as the basis for resolving Palestinian issue. Peskov told reporters Moscow's recognition dates, and as I said many times before, by the way, Russia already has recognized the statehood of Palestine. So Moscow's recognition dates to 1988, when the Soviet Union endorsed the Palestinian Declaration of Independence. And because Russia is how you say правоприемница, by the way. Let me translate the word. I'm struggling to remember this word. I don't know why. Successor, because Russia is a successor of the Soviet Union. This recognition of statehood of Palestine is from Soviet era, is obviously in force now too. So that's the statement from Kremlin, and I think situation is developing so tragically in the Middle East in regards to Palestine that I think it's only a matter of time, and countries outside of the Western world, maybe a few countries even from Western world, will do some gathering somewhere, maybe in UN, maybe somewhere else, and will decide to go ahead with some measures against this fascist Israel, right? To stop fascist Israelis, from genociding people all around them. Eventually, world community will have no option but to go ahead with the force against Israel, as it was done against Nazi Germany, by the way. Israel is a fascist state and has to be demilitarized and denazified, and world community will come to this realization at one point. It seems inevitable to me, because objectively speaking, I don't see any realistic ways that Israeli society will wake up itself and acknowledge how mistaken and how wrong and they were. I don't think Israeli society will voluntarily denazify itself, right? and pay whatever has to be paid for all the crimes that they committed against innocent. I don't think Israel voluntarily will become a normal country again, if Israel ever was a normal country to begin with. History of this country starts with ethnic cleansing, right? But nevertheless, I mean, Israel was never this bad as it is right now. It's a clearly fascist state, and I think world community, at some point, I don't know when it's going to be, but at some point, world community will have no option but to go with the force against fascist Israel, by the way, to demilitarize this fascist state and to denazify. That's the only way Israel, by the way, that's the only chance for Israel to exist, right? Only if it is demilitarized and denazified and acts adequately in regards to its neighbors and in regards to humanity. And if you think Israelis only hate, by the way, and disrespect Palestinians, you are mistaken. They hate everybody. They don't think anybody except themselves are human beings whatsoever. I mean, they think all of us are subhumans or something. That's their sickening ideology, right? I'm talking about majority of Israelis, by the way. They are, of course, very decent people there, very decent people that are protesting against the actions of their country, but their voice is not being heard, by the way. They are not influencing nothing, right? Majority is absolute fascist criminals, right? In my personal opinion, and have to undergo denazification. Personal opinion, yet again, you might agree with me or not, but that's how I see the things, right? Also reports that Iran, UK, France, and Germany meet in Istanbul for a second round of nuclear talks aimed parallel Iran-US negotiations. The E3 and Tehran push to revive still their diplomacy at Iran Consulate General. And yet again, by the way, I don't know what the hell is wrong with their leadership of Iran, why they are wasting time talking to these criminals, basically, that formally are in charge of UK, France, Germany, or any other country in the collective West, right? Why Iran is wasting time talking to them? And how many times they're going to be played, but how many times Western elites going to play with them, right? And mock them, so that Tehran will finally realize that there is no people in the leadership of the collective West with whom actual negotiations, successful negotiations might be held. Why they are wasting time, man? I mean, you tell me, dear friends, but I don't know. I don't know. They're going to get played again, man. That's what's going to happen. Tehran will continue messing around, right, in a hope, or Iran's leadership, by the way, or Iranian elites. They will continue to mess around in a hope that, well, they might find some agreements with the Western elites and they will leave them alone. It's not going to happen, man. They don't give a damn about you or your people or your country. All they care is whatever geopolitical ambitions they have, right? And they will sacrifice everybody in Iran when they will find it necessary. So with whom you are talking to, for God's sake, man? I don't know. But there was a report, by the way, also today I saw on one of the Telegram channels that the president of Iran stated that, well, Tehran should further intensify cooperation with Moscow and Beijing, with the BRICS, with the emerging multipolar world, and this is right direction. Yes, Iran should be focused on BRICS, on relationships with the BRICS member states, on relationships with this emerging multipolar world, and should not waste time on useless talks with these puppets of the globalists that are in charge of collective West, man. What the hell? Iran will be much more secure and in much better place if it will stop messing around. They're not going to be treated respectfully or they're not gonna be treated as a human beings even by Western elites, man. It's never gonna happen. And better Iran's leadership understands that now, and Iranian people, by the way, for that matter. Meanwhile, when it comes to Iran, we have also this report that Iran's Nahi-2 telecom satellite launched into orbit aboard of Russian Soyuz rocket, major leap for Tehran's space ambitions, boosting its communications and the tech capabilities. So you see, you cooperate with the countries that actually respect you. You cooperate with the political elites that actually can be helpful for your people, for your country. You see, you cooperate with Russia and you are launching satellites, by the way. You conduct talks with the US president and you're gonna get freaking bombed, man. You see difference? Holy moly, man. Unbelievable. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends. Let's continue. And the reports are that Thailand declares a state of emergency in the border areas with Cambodia. Two countries still are shelling, by the way, borderline areas of each other. You can see on your screen deployment of M60 tanks. I mean, quite old military equipment, but nevertheless, tanks being brought and some other military equipment to line of contact, let's see, to the border areas. And the risk is still there that these borderline skirmishes may actually resolve into a full-scale war between the two countries. Same time, we have reports, by the way, that Cambodia calls for a ceasefire with Thailand. Maybe Cambodian leadership realized that they are in no position to harass Thailand. Maybe, and it will be better to actually de-escalate. I don't know, but what Cambodian leadership thinks. But what is for sure is that neither country, by the way, or most importantly, people of neither Cambodia or Thailand want this war. And definitely, Global South don't need no additional points of escalation. Situation is already too tense in this world, right? And yes, it is a long-standing dispute between the sides. One of the aftermath, by the way, of colonial era of this part, right? I mean, Western empires, by the way, left such a carnage in this world, isn't it? And this struggle between Thailand and Cambodia is related to era when France was occupying these territories, right? And so there was a French India that was name that they come up with, isn't it, for this part of the world. And well, hopefully sides will de-escalate. What can I say, man? Hopefully sides will de-escalate. I just remind you, dear friends, that Cambodia is Cambodia's main trading partner is US, and Thailand is leaning towards BRICS more intensively, right? So therefore, one might argue that some external forces actually are involved in this escalation, and maybe CIA, MI6, or maybe French intelligence, who knows, are trying to create this another spot of escalation in the Global South to basically weaken the countries of the region, their positions, and influence their stance, for example, their political stance when it comes to future of the region. Maybe that's what is happening. And a few more news. The French TASS news agency is reporting that Georgia and NATO kick off multinational exercises. So Georgia and NATO held their opening ceremony of their exercises, Agile Spirit 2025, at the Georgia's Ksanis military base. The Georgian Defense Ministry reported. Koba Grigolia, commander of the Western Georgian Defense Forces, and Georgia, by the way, I'm not talking about US state Georgia, of course, I'm talking about former Soviet Republic Georgia in the Southern Caucasus region, where I am being born, you know, some million years ago. So Koba Grigolia, commander of the Western Georgian Defense Force, and William Cox, representative of the National Guard of the U.S. state of Georgia, will jointly lead the exercise. The maneuvers are being held in both Georgia and Turkey, where they began on July 21st. Military personnel from Georgia, United States, Turkey, Poland, Germany, Italy, Greece, Moldova, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Lithuania, and Ukraine are participating. Representatives of the armed forces of Armenia and Japan will attend as observers. Exercise will take place in Krzanisi in the joint Georgia-NATO center at the training ground and the training center in Vaziani at the training area in Norio and in the military base of Mukhrovani and Senaki. U.S. fighting vehicles and military helicopters have been brought to Georgia to participate in the exercises. Agile Spirit has been held in Georgia annually since 2011. In 2015, the drills were held under the auspice of NATO for the first time, while before that, they were Georgian-American exercises. And you know what? I don't know what Georgian leadership is thinking. Also, I mean, don't they have enough evidences that NATO is not a friend of Georgia? Don't they have enough evidences that collective West is a mortal enemy, mortal threat for Georgia and Georgian people? What else Western elites have to do so that people of Georgia, all of them, or majority, vast majority of them at least, and their elites, Georgian political elites, will finally realizing that they have to stay as far as possible for these criminals and the mass murderers that Western elites are. I don't know, man. What NATO are? What are you doing, Georgian leadership? Don't you had enough problems because of NATO and US and UK and France and the rest of them? Don't you? You want some more? Okay, carry on then. You are on the right direction in that case. Unbelievable, man. These people are suicidal, man. What I can say. These people are just freaking suicidal, man. Instead of staying away from NATO, by the way, this most dangerous terrorist organization in this world, they are hosting some freaking exercises with these terrorists. Well done. Fucking idiots, man. That's all I have to say about it. RIA Novosti is reporting, and I will end, by the way, this news segment on this news that Central Bank of the Russian Federation has reduced their key rate to 18% in annual terms from 20, which is a good news, obviously. I predicted that most likely towards the end of this month, and not just me, by the way, almost everybody who was commenting on the matter was saying that most likely, based on data from economy, most likely central bank will drop interest rate. My prediction was that drop will be 2%. I guessed it correctly, and I think towards the end of maybe even in mid-August, but for sure towards the end of August next month, central bank probably will again drop interest rate for also 2 basic points, up to 16%, and before end of this year, by the way, my prediction is that before end of this year, interest rate from central bank will be from, maybe it will drop even to 12%, by the way. This is very optimistic forecast to do, but maybe interest rates before end of this year will drop up to 12%. 14, 15 will also do, by the way, right? Because after all, there is a huge difference, isn't it? From 21, that it was like months ago or something, to 15. It's a big difference. So process has begun of decrease of interest rate of the central bank, which is a clearly signal that economical bloc of Russian government managed successfully to cool down economy, successfully enough so that now while inflation is in check, risks are minimized. Now, central bank can actually decrease interest rates and allow more flow of capital into economy without any additional risks, right? Which is a good, by the way, good news. And I think I will end the news segment on that. And there was a now community chat, dear friends, traditional community chat. Let's have some 15, 20, 30 minute chat, dear friends. I'll just remind you that tomorrow we will have a fundraising stream, big community chat that might last 2-3 hours, 4 hours. I don't know. Hopefully, internet will and technical stuff will work okay. And now, dear friends, there was a donation on a boosted, dear friends, from can you make a screenshot so that I will publish screenshot too. Anya, my wife, is assisting me as always. And there was a donation on a PayPal, dear friends, from Nathan. I cannot do screenshots from PayPal to make sure that private information stays private. I will only use name as always, just their first name. Nathan, thank you very much for your $20 donation on PayPal. And there is a comment here. Thank you, Levan. It's good to see your channel growing. Thank you very much, Nathan, for your kind words, for your donation, for your support and attention. Truly appreciate that. Thank you. And there was super chat, isn't it? So let me also go on super chat. So it will take just a minute, dear friends. It will take just a minute. I'm copying the super chat from and okay, dear friends, sorry for this technical pause. Sorry for this technical pause. And well, now let's start with the super chat as a priority. There was super chat on Rumble, dear friends, and let me publish this super chat first. From Bob. Thank you very much, Bob, for your super chat and for your questions and the comments. Time to make peace with Ukraine with a few oreshniks. Bob is commenting, and well, as you know, Bob, I did say many times in my previous updates that I think we are about to observe unprecedented scale of escalation in very near future. As a result of which Russia will not really have much options but to retaliate, and this retaliation most likely will be in a way and in a scale that will finally force globalist controlled regimes to come to their senses, basically, face the reality and acknowledge that they have lost, and only after that probably we will see through the escalation. And in the process of this in the process of bringing Western so-called elites into their senses, Oreshniks might be deployed too. So I think you are on point there. And there was also another super chat from Bob. And yet again, thank you, Bob, for your donation and super chat, for your comment. And Bob is writing, replace a Jew with a Nazi, even though Zelensky is more like a Nazi than Zaluzhny. I'm not sure I did understood what you meant. Even though, I mean, just because Zelensky is formally has a Jewish religion, Judaism, just because Zelensky is in Judaism, does not mean that he is not Nazi, by the way. I don't understand why in the West there is people see some contradiction between being Jewish, for example, and being Nazi. Do they think that only Germans can be Nazis, or what? Or only Christians, let's say, can be Nazis, or what? I find it difficult to understand why there is this misleading attitude in the West that, well, a Jewish person cannot be Nazi or the fascist. Oh, they can, by the way. They can. And take a look at the Israel, what they do. And I'm saying, by the way, Israelis, I'm not talking about Jewish people, by the way. I'm not generalizing nothing, right? And that's why I don't use or very rarely use or mention religion. But Israelis, that's the terminology that I'm operating with. Israelis, by the way. In my personal opinion, and my opinion based on reports from very respectful people in alternative media, like, by the way, guys from Grey Zone, for example, Aaron Matter and their Max Blumenthal. You know, well-respected leading figures in alternative media, right? And in the journalism field. And if you want journalism, you're only going to see it in alternative media nowadays, right? So Max Blumenthal on many occasions, by the way, including when he was a guester on the Judge Napolitano show, Judging Freedom, has said that based on social studies in Israel, majority of public there, majority Israelis were actually supporting actions of the IDF, right? Just because Netanyahu may not be most popular politician does not mean that Israelis are not supporting policies of Netanyahu in regards to Palestine or the actions, criminal actions of the IDF. They do support it, right? And if I remember correctly, also majority of Israelis, by the way, based on social studies that was conducted there in Israel. And I think Max Blumenthal knows about Israel much more than any of us do, right? Or majority of us, at least. And also majority of Israelis, based on social studies, were supporting blockade of Gaza Strip, which means the starvation of the people. Innocent people, by the way. And that's exactly what is happening. Israel is killing Palestinians, not just with the bombs and missiles, but also with the starvation. And such a painful videos are circulating on internet, by the way, that I cannot even share on my Telegram channel, because you might get heart attack, by the way, if you see these videos. Maybe I have to share these videos, by the way, on Telegram and on Twitter and on my videos on YouTube and Rumble too, to once again highlight all these horrible crimes that Israel is committing. Right now I'm speaking to you, and before my eyes stands this video that I saw little babies, by the way, Palestinian babies that was starved to death. it's painful, right? It's a tragedy. I don't know, man. And so no one can say, by the way, that just because someone is a Jew or other Christian or I don't know, Hindu or Buddhist or this or that, it cannot be Nazi, man. It's not about religion. It's about indoctrination, right? And unfortunately, propaganda means are so powerful that certain criminal elements in so-called elites are capable of brainwashing people to believe in all sorts of madness, and that is the case in Israel. And majority of Israelis are Nazis, by the way, and the fascists, in my personal opinion, and have to be denazified. That's how it is, right? When it comes to your comment, Bob, I'm not exactly sure I understand. Zelensky is, of course, a Nazi criminal, right? Fascist element, and Zaluzhny also, by the way. Let's not forget that Zaluzhny also affiliated with Azov, these Nazi formations that are operating openly in Kiev-controlled territory since 2014 coup d'etat that was orchestrated by US, during the which a main part when it comes to military assault on a legit government was played by Nazis, right? Nazis that was trained in NATO countries, by the way, in Poland, in the Baltic states, in UK, according to reports too, right? Including elements that founded Azov, Nazi formation. So, I mean, the entire so-called elite of modern regime in Kiev is Nazi elements, fascist elements, and in my personal opinion, should be put on a trial and they're sentenced to death for crimes that they committed. If you are against death sentence, okay, life imprisonment will, I guess, do the justice. Although I think there are certain crimes for which penalty should be death. Yet again, personal opinion, by the way. So that's what I can say about your comment here. And there was also, dear friends, also super chatter. Also super chatter from Bob. Let me pull out image. Russian armed forces are raising Russian flags near Grigorievka. Bob is commenting. Thank you very much, Bob. I guess this is the latest development. While I'm online, I guess there was reports that about further advances of the Russian armed forces. So thank you for good news. After stream, of course, I will continue work and I will publish latest on my Telegram and Twitter X page, and most likely in my second update today. And also, dear friends, there was another super chat from Bob. I will highlight it right now, and let's go for further community chat, dear friends. And this is the comment from Bob, dear friends. Holy crap, Luan, Russia has enough nukes to end the world 10 times over. No need for more nukes. Thank you very much, Bob, for your comment. And I do understand your critical view here on my take. Yes, maybe I was a bit exaggerating. Russia definitely has enough nukes, by the way, to maintain nuclear deterrent, for sure. But what I was trying to say basically on that matter is that we should not allow ourselves to be fooled by Western elites with these talks about denuclearization. They are lying. I have no doubts that neither U.S. leadership now or in upcoming decades or the leadership of any collectivist countries can be trusted. They cannot be trusted, by the way. And everything that they come up with will be deception. That's my personal take. That's how I see the things. And so we should be very careful. That's I mean Russia. And I will say this to every other country, by the way, to be extremely, extremely careful while dealing with the Western so-called elites, because they cannot be trusted. Everything they come up with is part of some plan to harm you, right? Eventually. And Iran learned this hard way just a couple of weeks ago, isn't it? While US was engaged in negotiations, and same time, very same US was actively working with Israel on the plans to attack Iran. And eventually they actually acknowledged that yes, these negotiations were just a part of deception. That's why I kind of find it difficult to understand why on earth Iran is still talking to them. But okay, if they want to, by the way, I mean, who am I to tell them what to do, isn't it? But all I'm saying is, let's be careful. Let's be careful because we know with whom we are dealing, right? Let's continue, dear friends, with Bob. Thank you very much for your comments, for being this supportive of my work and this project. Truly appreciate. Thank you very much, and many thanks to everybody who supported and continues supporter and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. Truly grateful. Thank you, dear friends. And okay. I almost missed on that term. Yes, I have seen it. Thank you, Anne. And dear friends, let me also highlight this donation that I receive on the Boosty platform right now during the stream from Alexander. Thank you very much, Alexander, for your donation through Boosty. 764 rubles, which is $10, by the way. Thank you very much for your donation. And comment is from Alexander. Thank you, Levan. Love the morning show. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate your support. Truly grateful. Thank you. I am trying, dear friends. I am trying to be as informative in my updates as I can. And hopefully one day I will be in a position to, have some, true studio in Moscow. Right now I'm in Vladikavkaz, and any improvised studio will do. But once we will go back in Moscow, if opportunity comes, I would definitely try to make a studio from which I will work constantly, and hopefully I'll be able to make more updates, because right now in Moscow, as I said a few times before, I'm using dining room, right? And for family members it's not really convenient when you are just taking entire dining room and kitchen basically for an hour or two, and no one can just do nothing there. But when you have your own room as a cabinet or office or studio, you just do your job. You don't disturb nobody. You are just locked in your room and doing work. One day maybe I'll be in position to have a studio, and hopefully my work will become even more useful for the community. Once again, thank you for your support, dear friends. And I'm scrolling there now in the chat. As always, dear friends, if there is a capital Q or capital letters, that will make it easier to spot the question. It's almost 2 hours since I start this live stream. Time did fly, isn't it? Question from Nidish Kumar Levan. What are the Slavic nations still using Cyrillic scripture? Kirillitsa is used in Russia, of course, in Belarus, you know. In Ukraine, they might actually try to replace Kirillitsa with the Latin alphabet. And by the way, Kirillitsa and Latin alphabet, they're they look somewhat similar. There are differences, obviously, but there are significant similarities too. Of course, you know what? I have to Google it. I'll give you now. So it's a Russia, Ukraine, which is still using Kirillitsa, but might get rid of Kirillitsa in favor of Latin. If this regime, this neo-Nazi regime, will remain there for any longer. Belarus, as I said, is using Kirillitsa. Bulgaria, Serbia, North Macedonia or Montenegro. No, North Macedonia, by the way. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also, Mongolia, by the way. Mongolia are not Slavic people, obviously. Mongols are not Slavs, but they are using Kirillitsa too. So that's how it is. So Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Bulgaria, Serbia, North Macedonia. And North Macedonia is called North Macedonia, Macedonia. That's how we say in English, isn't it? North Macedonia. Because of the Macedonia province in Greece, and Greece was against Macedonia name for this former Yugoslav republic. Also, Bosnia and Herzegovina that are using Kirillitsa, and they're from non-Slavic countries. It's Mongolia too. Let's continue. Question from Svetlana Vladimirova. Did you check out the Matvienko-Tolstoy scandal? I know that Matvienko hiring through acid at the Tolstoy yesterday. Hiring through... I'm not sure I understand this meaning of this word, hiring. But I did check, Svetlana. I did check. I tried to learn some more about this situation between the two, and all I did find out, there is very little, almost nothing in media, right? All I did find out is that they have some differences in approach when it comes to migration policies. Tolstoy has a stronger stance on migration. Matvienko allegedly, and I'm saying this, what I see in some publications in let's say, alternative media field, right? Matvienko has a different attitude towards this topic. Maybe I was looking for a video, by the way. I mean, I don't want to base my judgment on reports from third parties if they are not giving me sources. I was looking for a source to see video or interview of either Tolstoy or Matvienko when they are going after each other. I was unable to find it. Maybe you can send me a link on that so that I will watch when they are talking about each other, right? Opposing each other on whatever matters, right? But allegedly, there is some issue between these two. Okay, I mean, you was asking me yesterday, what is your take on the situation? And because I don't really have much information on that, I don't really have strong opinion, either on Tolstoy or about Matvienko and their conflict. If there is a conflict, actually, by the way, because I struggle to find a video where either Matvienko or Tolstoy are actually saying anything negative about each other. All I did find, by the way, video from 19 from Channel 1 when Tolstoy was working there as a journalist, and he was, I mean, ironically, he was congratulating Matvienko with her birthday or something. I mean, it's ironic, but that's all I find, right? So therefore, I don't know what is going on. If I'm honest, I don't really interested in the relationships between officials, what they think about each other and why and so on. I don't have strong opinions about any of them, right? So that's all actually. Maybe I should be more interested in domestic politics and stuff, but I'm not. So I'm more focused on some geopolitical developments that influence future for everybody, for all of humanity. And when it comes to domestic, some political stuff, I'm not really interested. All I want to see is a fight against corruption, by the way, to further increase. I'm happy that fight against corruption is becoming bigger and bigger, which is great. I was always saying that main threat for Russian society, is a corruption and corrupt officials, first of all. And me and you and everybody probably has noticed very significant increase on fight against corruption, literally almost on daily basis, isn't it? Media is reporting about arrests and charges against the former or current officials all over the Russia, by the way, right? And this is good thing. This is good thing. Hopefully, even though it is impossible to defeat corruption completely, hopefully at least horizontal corruption will cease to exist as much as possible. And based on a scale of this offensive of the state on corruption, I have some hopes. I have some hopes that some good progress will be achieved in this. That's my take. And when it comes to, some internal political stuff, I don't watch TV, by the way, when they're debating each other, probably. I don't watch TV in general for decades now. I don't, I don't even know that many politicians, right? Yes, I can tell you 5 parties that are in parliament, and that's about it, really. That's how much I'm not interested in domestic some political stuff, because it's just not interesting to me. What can I say? Maybe I should pay a little more attention, and I will. I guess when election time comes, I will learn which party has watched programs and so on. But that's my answer. I did check. I did not find direct statements from either Matvienko or Tolstoy when they are attacking each other. Allegedly, they have some serious differences when it comes to migration policies and stuff like that. And okay, what can I tell about it? Right. If you ask me, I think state is moving in the right direction to secure borders, basically, and to make sure that people that are coming in Russia will behave respectfully towards country, towards society. People that are coming to Russia in the long terms, right, to work, for example, live and work here for long terms, I think should know Russian language, at least basics of Russian, right? At least basics, by the way. Otherwise, how are you gonna communicate with the society? How are you gonna integrate? How integration has to happen, right? You need to know local language. It's just basics, right? It's nothing extraordinary to ask. that if you're coming to Russia or any other country, by the way, please, and if you want to live here and work and do your thing, as long as you don't break no laws, by the way, I mean, do yourself, be happy, it's all good, right? But to be successful, I think successfully integrate into society, you need to know at least their language, by the way, right? Basics. Then you will learn on top of that, right? And I think that's the direction that state is moving now, isn't it? And it's the right direction, I think. And first of all, everybody who is coming to Russia, and this should be case in case of every other country, everyone should be respectful, because you are moving into other country with its own unique history, its own unique culture, and one should have a decency, dignity, and self-respect, so that this person will be respectful for their hosting culture and their traditions, right? It's the basics. I mean, if you go into other country and behave crazy, then is it their locals' fault if if your face will get smashed? I don't think so. You deserve this. Behave respectfully, and you're gonna be fine. That's my take. Just be respectful, and you will be treated respectfully. I think so. And that's what life told me, by the way, right? And I have lived in quite a different places of this world, and different in different cultures, more liberal, more traditional, more conservative, and this and that. And I do know what am I talking about, at least on certain levels, although I'm not an expert, obviously, in migration policies, for sure. Let's continue, dear friends. Very nice words from Светлана Владимирова. Ливан, ваши подписчики вас уважают, ценят и любят. Вот так вот. She is saying that our community is very friendly towards me, respectful, and appreciate my work. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you, dear friends, to all of you for your support. I'm trying my best to be useful for community. Hopefully I am, and there is always ways to become better, right? Every single day, all of us should try to become better, and therefore I hope a year from now I will be more professional in this field. Even though I grew up in journalism, by the way, I was a writer journalist, and this segment of video journalism is something that I have to learn, right, from the scratch, basically. Even though I was at one point in one of their TV channels in Georgia, I was the head of a news department. I did not work I appointed other people to work in a studio. I myself was staying away. I always see myself as a writer journalist, so therefore I have no skills. I did not have no skills to work with the video, right? And I have to learn, by the way, from scratch, and that's what I do for the last 3 years, and hopefully I'm improving. Nidish Kumar is also commenting, Levon, I think Russia lacks in BVR capabilities than West. Russia must improve it. Other fields, Russia is top notch. I mean, BVR is a big issue for sure. Nidish Kumar is talking about beyond visual range fighter. This goes for, first of all, I think Nidish is talking about air-to-air combat. I think Russia has made quite significant progress with the latest generation of radars and their missile systems in terms of BVR. Longest air-to-air kill is allegedly goes to either Su-35 or Su-57, and allegedly, yet again, this happened in a zone of special military operation when one of Russian fighter jet intercepted airplane of hostile forces, that is the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, over 120 kilometers away. Some are arguing that up to 200 kilometers away. Obviously, at this point, information about operations of the Russian Air Force is mainly classified. But after a special military operation will end, I guess we will have opportunity to learn some more, especially when it comes to this air-to-air combat that definitely taking place. But still, by the way, I think, and I was always on this page since I began paying attention to military aircrafts, and that is decades ago, by the way. So I was always paying attention that since one may argue F-14 gap in BVR capabilities. I mean, BVR become a thing, basically, one may argue, after F-14, F-15, right? And even though Russia had developed MiG-25 with BVR capabilities, other planes, MiG-23 was, I will say, significantly behind their F-14, for example. Nothing to be said about F-15. MiG-29 was also not really on the same level in BVR capabilities, and neither Su-27, let's be real here, right? So yes, you are on the point there, and I think Russian aerospace industry, Russian military industrial complex is working on the matter, and I think after Su-57, and maybe even already, by the way, if you take in account the latest Russian air-to-air missiles, maybe, and also radars, by the way. I mean, radar is the main thing, isn't it? You have to be able to detect enemy aircraft and to track enemy aircraft. You have to have a firing solution, right? And when it comes to missiles, well, Russia is moving forward, but yet again, I think there is a still gap, by the way. Maybe still some gap in the BVR capabilities, and hopefully we will deal with that. I think this is a big issue, especially when Western fighter jets are, Western military industrial complex is that focused on low observability, right? This so-called stealth technology, which is overrated. I think maybe in a couple of years' time, Russia will announce development of long-wave radar, maybe not long-wave radar, but miniaturized long-wave radar. And long-wave radars, by the way, have no issue detecting stealth planes, right? Long-wave radars can see them easy. Issue is firing solution, not just to detect, but to track and to have a firing solution. And I think work is being done now in terms of miniaturization of this long-wave radars. And if work is successful, and I think will be successful, then soon we might receive reports that new generation radars have no issue with detecting the stealth planes whatsoever. And all these investments in stealth technology will be just, will evaporate like that. I think that's the direction that we are heading. So maybe Russia is more focused on that, because when it comes to missiles, by the way, Russia has the longest kill, I believe. And Russia has hypersonic air-to-air missiles. I don't think any other country has. you know, and we are moving forward. But BVR is something that we should pay attention to, and we do pay attention, of course. I mean Russia. Thank you for your comment, Nidish. Nidish is also commenting, Levan, I think they are using recognition as a bargaining chip for more aid to Ukraine. What do you say? Do they really need any bargaining chip? US is on board with this proxy war anyways. Trump was just messing around, isn't it? Trump and his inner circle, they were just messing around, acting like if they really are about to de-escalate with Russia. In reality, we see their faces, right? Masks are off. And new administration of US are on absolutely on board with this proxy war against Russia. So I don't think they really need European regimes, globalist control regimes in Europe really need some bargaining chips to kind of force US to get engaged further. US is in this war anyways, right? I think pressure from society does play some role, isn't it? Because can you imagine if you are ordinary British citizen, like we are, like ordinary British citizen, and you see all these atrocities that being committed by Israel against civilians, and same time you know that your government sends weapons to Israeli forces and organizes political and media cover-up of all the crimes that Israel is committing. What would be your feeling? You would be ashamed, I guess. You would be outraged, I guess, because I would be, right? And in many cases, people will direct this outrage towards the protests, right? And these protest movements, by the way, are not died down in the Western countries. And why you think these protests are mainly in the Western countries? Because it's the Western countries that are providing cover-up for Israel, weapons and their political and media cover-up, right? So ordinary people in the West are realizing that it's their responsibility to somehow influence the situation. Unfortunately, maybe majority of public in the West still in deep sleep and are not engaged in these processes, but eventually, one day they have to wake up too, isn't it? But still, already pressure is enough, by the way. Pressure seems to be is enough that you see, Spanish government is making some strong statements, and Spain has recognized independence of Palestine. I believe France plans to do so. And UK's prime minister is hinting about it. So it's more about I think domestic policies and to save whatever remains from reputation of these Western countries, because world is watching, isn't it? World is watching. So that's how I think when it comes to US's involvement into this proxy war, they are on board anyways, man. Yet again, unfortunately, at one point, you remember, even I began believing, it was a short time, just for a week or two, but even I began like hoping that maybe, new administration will really de-escalate. And I get into that trap because as everybody, as all of you, by the way, I also want to see end of this civil war, right? And that's how I see, by the way, this conflict. It's a civil war inside the Russian world that was provoked by global collective West, right? Globalists and so on. And I want to see end of it. And that's why I end up being trapped in that hope that maybe Trump's administration really is about de-escalating. But I was wrong. I was mistaken. All of us, by the way, who end up in that trap, all of us were, wrong. But you cannot. I mean, how should I say? You cannot prohibit yourself to have a hope, isn't it? You know. Bob Hope, Levan, at least the European court has put the leader of Israel as a war criminal. There was, yes, I mean, you are talking about arrest warrant on Netanyahu and a number of other officials there in the regime. Yes, but this was done by this so-called International Criminal Court, which has it don't really has a reputation, especially after what they did in regards to Russian president, by the way, and Russian ombudsman for kids, because the Russian military evacuated their children from abandoned children, by the way, from a zone of special military, from line of contact. And what should they do? I mean, should Russian militaries just leave those kids, abandoned kids, or what? Of course, they evacuated them, right? And because of this, Kiev regime and its Western backers began pushing this narrative that Russia kidnapped kids, and based on this false narrative, by the way, this so-called International Criminal Court issued the arrest warrant on the Russian president for saving lives of children, by the way. After that, and also arrest warrant was issued on a children's ombudsman of Russian Federation. And after that, by the way, I refuse to have any respect towards this international so-called criminal court. It's nothing to me, right? Absolutely. And just because they issued arrest warrant on actual war criminal Netanyahu, reputation of their this court not going to be restored. By the way, they did what everybody already knew anyways, right? That Netanyahu is a war criminal and mass murderer. But at least among European elites, there is at least some groups of European elites are ashamed of being associated with the crimes that Israel is committing, and that's why I think more and more stronger statements are coming from Europe, right? But U.S. is a whole different story. I don't think we're gonna hear anything like that from the U.S. Either current administration or the next administration. U.S. political class brought and paid by Israeli lobby, and this is going on for decades and will continue for decades, I guess. Dear friends, it's 2.5 hours now. 2.5 hours. Thank you very much. Kate Stone is commenting, the real assault on Russia started under Bill Clinton and his witch wife. I mean, yes. One may argue that yes, Bill Clinton clearly had the opportunity, our administration of US at the time, to build a truly friendly strategic partnership with Russia, but they choose not to. And they choose to keep Russia sort of isolated from the West, so that they will, as a potential opportunity to then use Russia as to demonize Russia and use it again as a imaginary threat, so that the system in US, this tremendously corrupt system in US that constantly needs enemies, will continue to exist and operate, right? So yes, I will say you are absolutely correct. During the Clinton's era, there was an opportunity to build a very different relationships between Russia and US, Russia and the Western countries, and this opportunity was missed. And the Russian side was very keen to build these good relationships, right? But from other side, there was a very different approach, and rest is history. Thank you very much for your comment. And dear friends, let me, and also from Kate commentary, NATO is looking for another Ukraine always, and I have to agree with you again, 100%. They need their wars, they need hostilities, they need their enemies. That's why they are generating these artificial images of their enemies on a regular basis, because of this tremendously corrupt system in the West, economical and political system in the West, that is only can operate in that hostile environment, because only in that case you can allocate trillions of dollars or the euros to feed this system while questions not being asked, right? So yes, I mean it is actually the factual. And dear friends, if I may, I will end this live stream now. Don Zugar, one more question. Don Zugar is asking, Levan, do you think we will all expire soon due to nuclear holocaust? No. Even though I think we are about to observe large-scale escalation that collective West is preparing against Russia, and I think Russia will retaliate this time around, and in such a scale that Western ruling class will actually have no option but to face the reality and acknowledge that they have lost this proxy war against Russia, and after that they will most likely begin de-escalating. But even though I see this high risk of unprecedented level of escalation, I don't see enough evidences to believe that we will end up in a full-scale nuclear war. I don't think so. There might be, and most likely will be, some local scale clashes between certain NATO forces and the Russian forces. Unfortunately, I'm afraid this is at this point seems like inevitable. Some local scale, let's say, skirmishes, but I don't think we're going to end up. Probably at some point, emergency lines of communication will do the job, right? And at some point, Western ruling class, once realizing that, well, that's it. It's a last stop. They have to now acknowledge the reality. Once they will come to their senses in this way, then they will begin de-escalating, and there will be no full-scale nuclear exchange. Although, let's say 90%, 99% even, I will say there will be no full-scale nuclear war, but never say never, right? So I will leave 1% for possibility that something crazy gonna happen, and we're gonna actually end up in a full-scale war. But yet again, chances on that seems to be next to none. Thanks God, by the way. Hopefully, I'm correct on that, and I think we all want to avoid full-scale nuclear war, right? None of us need that. So there will be no full-scale nuclear exchange, and there will be no nuclear holocaust. But unfortunately, I think we will see unprecedented scale of escalation nevertheless. That will not extend to a full-scale war. And dear friends, thank you very much once again for your attention, for your time, for your support. Truly grateful. Have a wonderful day. Wonderful, great weekend. And if I will have second update today, then see you later or see you tomorrow. Thank you all.